Baruchim Aba'im. Welcome back, everyone, to another Wednesday night class in Halebanon, Avenue S, the corner of East 9th. We are learning Perashat Re'eh. Be'ezat Hashem, tonight we are learning the Shi'ur. Let's just get the names right. For Refu'ah Shelema of Yisrael Yaakov ben Malka. El narefana lo, el narefana lo, el narefana lo. Hashta ba'agala wazman kariv imru amen. We're also learning the Ilun Nishmat Moshe Hayim ben Rosa and Yafa bat Simcha Ruach Hashem Tiniham began Eden. The saying is that money is the source of all evil. I mean, this is what we hear, this is what people believe. However, money is probably the most valuable commodity that we have. People associate themselves with money. If you don't have money, basically you can't live. You can't really do anything if you don't have money. It's not a coincidence that the Gemara actually calls money damim. Damim means blood. But another term for money, according to the Gemara, damim, is money. Why? Because when you take a person's money away, it's like you're taking his soul away. He can't live without money. That's really what it is. So as much as we like to say money is the source of all evil and a lot of problems happen with money, but if we don't have money, we can't do anything. And why do I bring this up? Is because in this week's Perashat, we have a mitzvah of giving tzedakah. Now, let me just preface the class by saying we're not collecting for any organizations. We're not running a drive over here. You don't have to give any charitable contributions after the class. We're talking about mitzvah tzedakah. So Borei Olam commands us in this week's Perashat, we'll talk about ma'aser, we'll talk about tzedakah. He commands us that we have to give charity to the person that's destitute. The poor person, the person that's impoverished, the person that needs our help, we are commanded to help them out. And the question, the very simple question is why? Why do I, as let's say a person that does have money, a man of means, why am I obligated to help the person that doesn't have any money? If Borei Olam wanted him to have money, Borei Olam would have gave him money. Why is it incumbent upon me that I, the person of means, the person that has the money, why am I obligated to go help him? I worked my whole life. I schlepped from place to place. It wasn't easy for me. And now you expect me to give tzedakah to a person that just comes and asks tzedakah. Why am I obligated to give it to him? Furthermore, what makes this question even more confusing, if you want to say, is that towards the end of the Perashat, so the Perashat is talking about all the holidays. And right before Borei Olam instructs us about Hag HaSukkot, we talk about Shib'a Shavuot Tispor Lach, which is talking about the Hag Shavuot. So the commandment's like this: Ve'asita Hag Shavuot LaHashem Elohecha, Misat Nidbat Yadecha Asher Titen, Ka'asher Yibarecha Hashem Elohecha. In English, you shall observe the festival of Shavuot for Hashem, your God. The voluntary offerings that you give should be commensurate with how much Hashem, your God, will have blessed you. So what does it mean? I'm not obligated to give tzedakah. Nidba. Nedaba means voluntary offering. This is what this pasuk says. The last pasuk of the Perashat says like this: Ish kematenat yado kebirkat Adonai Elohecha asher natan lach. In English, everyone according to what he can give, according to the blessing that Hashem, your God, has given you. So all of a sudden the verbiage changed from a voluntary offering, where tzedakah is to be viewed as a voluntary commandment. If I want to give tzedakah, I can. If I don't give tzedakah, it's fine. All of a sudden it shifted from nedaba to matana. Matana means I'm obligated. So what is it, Hashem? Command me, but instruct me and teach me, open my eyes. Let me know, what is it? Is mitzvah tzedakah a voluntary mitzvah? Or is mitzvah tzedakah an obligatory mitzvah? This is what we would like to see tonight. So again, we have two languages. We have nedaba and we have matana. I'm reiterating this because I want you to understand this, because it will help you throughout the whole class. Nedaba means a voluntary. Okay? Shemitnadeb beli nedir. You know, when you go up to the Sefer Torah, what do you say? Shemitnadeb beli nedir. Funny thing is, when you go up to Sefer Torah, if you say beli neder or not, as we explained many times, it's a neder on you anyway. So that beli neder doesn't help you. But when you say mitnadeb beli neder, it's sort of a language of voluntary. That's mitnadeb. But then it says, Ish kematenat yado. However, how much Hashem gives you, you have to give tzedakah. So again, the question is, do we have to give tzedakah? Or is it something nice that if we have the money, we give? If we don't have the money, we don't give. There is a halacha in Shulchan Aruch, Yoreh De'ah, Siman Resh Mem Het. I read you the halacha. Kol Adam Hayav Liten Tzedakah. So over here, he went with the language of Hayav. Every person, man and lady, is obliged. We have to give tzedakah. Umi shenoten pachot mima shera'ui lo liten, and one that gives less than how much he has to give, bed din kofin oto umakin makat mardut ad sheiten ma she'amadu liten veyordim min chasav befanav velokchim mimenu. This is very serious. A person is obligated to give tzedakah. If he's a man of means and he doesn't give tzedakah, bed din, the court has the right to go down to his assets, strip him from his assets until he gives tzedakah. Now, we don't find this by a lot of mitzvot. I didn't finish the whole Shulchan Aruch, but I think this is the only mitzvah that bed din actually can go down to his assets, to his possessions, go down to his fields, to his buildings, to his real estate, to his properties, strip them away from him to force him to give tzedakah. This is Shulchan Aruch. But why? Why is Shulchan Aruch using the language of hayav? We are forced to give tzedakah. We are obligated to tzedakah. Borei Olam said, nitbat yadecha asher titen. It's a voluntary offering. So Hashem, I'm still confused. Is mitzvah tzedakah tomorrow morning or tonight? Somebody comes to the shul and wants tzedakah. Am I obligated to give him tzedakah? Do I fall under the category where if I don't give him tzedakah, I'll get a knock on my door at 1 o'clock in the morning, and the rabbi comes and says, "Oh, by the way, you didn't give tzedakah at Halebanon at 8:30 p.m. Okay, so we have to take away your iPhone." What do you mean? We have to take away your iPhone, sell your iPhone or whatever possession. I'm just making up something up. Take it, sell it, and whatever money we can get from it, we have to give it to the ani. Am I obligated to do that? Am I obligated to give tzedakah? Or when the ani comes to the Bet Knesset, can you help me out with tzedakah? I don't want. Can I say that? I mean, you're looking at me weird, but this happens every single day. People come into the Bet Knesset, you meet people, organizations call you on the phone and ask for your contribution, for your tzedakah. Am I allowed to say no? Or am I obligated from the letter of the law, from the Torah, from the Shulchan Aruch, we will see the Rambam soon. Am I obligated to give them tzedakah? And I cannot turn them down. It's a suit for me to turn them down. Here's the Rambam. The Rambam says like this. He quotes this pasuk that's earlier in the Perashat. The pasuk is, Ki yeh becha ebyon me'achad achecha be'achad she'arecha be'artzecha asher Hashem Elohecha noten lach. If there shall be a destitute person among you, any of your brethren, in any of your cities, in your land that Hashem your God gives you, lo te'ametz et lebabecha, you shall not harden your heart. Velo tikpotz et yadecha me'achicha ha'ebyon. Don't harden your heart or close your hand against your destitute brother. So what does it say over here? We must. Continues, ki fatowah tiftach et yadecha lo. Rather, you shall open your hand to him. Ve'ha'abed ta'abitenu de mahsoro asher yahsar lo. You shall lend him his requirement, whatever is lacking to him. So another pasuk, we are obligated to help the poor people. Says the Rambam, mitzvat aseh. It's a mitzvat aseh, a positive commandment. Liten tzedakah la'aniyim kefi ma shera'ui la'ani. So here the Rambam throws us a curveball. For example, if an ani comes to the Bet Knesset and asks for tzedakah, I cannot give him $1. Because where would that $1 go? You can't buy anything today with $1. You have to give him a respectable amount. $5, $10. That $1, according to the curveball that the Rambam just threw at us, is not enough. Why? Kefi ma shera'ui la'ani. You have to give him what he can use. $1 is nice, but he can't use that $1. Im hayta yad hanoten maseget. And then Rambam changes his language around again. if you can give him the money. Im hayta yad hanoten maseget. If you have the means to give him the money, give him. Which means, if you don't have, you're not obligated. Shene'emar, and he quotes this pasuk, Patowach tiftach et yadecha lo. Open your hand to him and give him. V'chol haro'eh ani. And anyone that sees a poor person, mebakesh, that asks for money, ve'elim einav mimenu ve'lo natan lo tzedakah, you turn your eye away from him. You turn away from him and you don't give him tzedakah, ober belo ta'aseh. You just transgressed a negative commandment. Shene'emar, and he quotes the pasuk, lo te'ametz et lebabecha, ve'lo tikpotz et yadecha me'achicha ha'ebyon. You can't harden your heart, and you can't turn away from your brother that needs the help. So we're still left in the dark. Why are we still left in the dark? Because we still don't know whether we're obligated to give tzedakah or not. The Rambam is showing us on many different tangents. He says, give him if you have money, and if you don't give him, you're ober an mitzvat aseh, mitzvat lo ta'aseh. So we're still left in the dark. Do we have to give tzedakah? Is it an obligatory mitzvah, or is it something nice? And especially the language that we started off with. One pasuk says nedaba, one pasuk says matana. In addition to the tzedakah that we'll see whether we're obligated or not, in addition to that mitzvah tzedakah, we have a mitzvah of ma'aser kesafim. Now I think I get this question many times. And the question that I get many times is, Rabbi, I know I have to give ma'aser. The ma'aser that I have to give, does it come out from my profit? Or does it come out before I spend my money? I get my paycheck, okay? After they took the taxes, the net we're talking about, not the gross. They took the taxes out and everything. You have a check, let's say, making up a number, $500. Now I know that I can use that $500 towards my mortgage, towards my expenses, towards my food, towards shopping. Do I have to give ma'aser right there and then from that 500? Or do I wait till after I spent all the money that I need, then I'll give ma'aser? So what I answer, I'll tell you what I answer, is give it right away. Because if you don't give it right away, you're going to use it on many different things. Who's to say you're going to be left with any money at the end of the day? You're going to say, oh, I'm left with $10. I could use the $10 for something else. You'll always find excuses when you have the money not to give the money. So right away, you get that check. Right away, if it's 500, 10% off, $50. Khalas. It's out of sight, out of mind. You don't have to think about it anymore. And you fulfill the obligation of ma'aser. And the mitzvah of ma'aser, says the Tosafot in Masechet Ta'anit Daftet, brings a story. Says like this, brings a pasuk. Aser te'aser. Funny enough, it's in this week's Perashat also. The mitzvah of ma'aser is in this week's Perashat. Aser te'aser et kol tebu'at zar'echa hayoseh hasadeh shana shana. In English, you shall tithe the entire, by the way, to give 10% of your money, it's from the Torah. A lot of Gentiles do this also. And I've heard and I've seen many Gentiles saying or attributing the source of their blessing and their prosperity and their success to giving a tithe of their money. Unbelievable. So when Borei Olam tells us in the Torah, Aser te'aser, he wasn't only speaking to the Jewish nation. You have the money, give ma'aser. And you'll see what will happen with the ma'aser. In English, you shall tithe the entire crop of your planting, the produce of the field, year by year. Says it to Safot. En li ella tebu'at zar'echa shehayav ma'aser. What does it say over here? You have to give a tenth of the produce of the field. What if I don't have a field? I'm not a farmer. So who's to say that I have to give 10% of my money? Says the Tosafot. Ribit uprakmatia v'chol she'ar revahim minayin. How do I know that I have to give 10% of my profit? Talmud lomar et kol tebu'at zar'echa. Now the pasuk could have said, Aser te'aser tebu'at zar'echa. Give a tithe of the produce of your field. No, it says et kol. What is et kol? What are these two words? Why are they superfluous? What are they including? Et kol, all the money that you have, even if you don't have a field, all the money that you have to give 10%. That's what the Tosafot says. Now, if you're going to say that this is a mitzvah that the rabbis instituted, it's nice to give ma'aser, it's a blessing, if you give 10%, Hashem will give you back. We actually find this by Avraham Avinu and Yaakov Avinu. by Avraham Avinu. He finishes the war, 4 kings against the 5 kings. We have Melchizedek coming out to greet him. Melchizedek is Shem ben Noach, and they exchange. He gives him lechem vayayin, he gives him bread and wine. And what does it say by Avraham Avinu? Vayiten lo ma'aser mikol. Avraham Avinu actually gave Melchizedek, which is Shem ben Noach, 10% of all his assets. Avraham Avinu. That's Avraham Avinu. It's not something nice that the rabbis instituted. I hear this all the time. I don't have to give ma'aseh because the rabbis made it up. The rabbis did not make it up. First of all, it's in the Torah that we just read. Second of all, it's all the way back, dated from Avraham Avinu. Furthermore, Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu tells Borei Olam, Hashem, if you let me return safely to my homeland, v'chol asher titen li, aserenu lach. Whatever you give me, I will give 10%. We explained one time, Perashat Vayishlach, that's what the Malach came and took Dinah away because he didn't give 10%. He didn't say Levi is supposed to be working in the Beit HaMikdash. Refer back to that class, I believe it was like 4 years ago. So now that we saw we have a mitzvah of tzedakah, now we saw that we have a mitzvah of ma'aseh. The question comes right back again. Why am I obligated to give tzedakah? I worked. I sweat from my money. Okay, forget tzedakah. Why do I have to give ma'aseh? I made $1,000. Why do I have to give 100? Why do I have to give the money? It's my money. Why do I have to give it? So I already gave you a preview by what I just said, because it's my money. See, that's the misconception that we have all the time, because it's my money. You know, I saw something on, I'm not going to say who this gentleman was. Somebody sent me a video of, there's a boy in the community, in the Syrian community, who interviews entrepreneurs and Baruch Hashem philanthropists and well-to-do individuals in the community. And this person that he interviewed, I noticed that in between every sentence, he kept on saying, everything I have is from Hashem. Everything I have from Hashem. Now, by the way, everything I have from Hashem doesn't mean that you have to be a religious Jew. If you acknowledge that everything you have from Hashem, then it's much easier for you to give tzedakah and help people out in their time of need. However, if you are under that theory, that ideology, that I made my money, it's impossible for you to depart ways with your money. That is something we have to ingrain in our thoughts every single day. It's my money, that's not us. I always tell my kids all the time, they tell me, Daddy, but this is expensive. It's not my money. If it was my money, I understand. Expensive, going away on vacation, buying nice things. You're right. It's not my money. Now, I'm not saying now live beyond your means. No, I'm not saying max out your credit cards and go live in debt because, it's not my money. It's Hashem's money. You have to also think rationally. You have to think with a sechel, common sense. But don't be stingy. That's the problem. You have the money. Don't be stingy. That is exactly, before we continue, that's what Borei Olam is telling us. Borei Olam is telling us, I don't require of you to go into debt. I don't require of you to lose your money. I understand it's very hard to make money, especially nowadays. If you have the money, I am asking of you, please give tzedakah to people that need your tzedakah. But again, we'll go back to the question. Why do I have to give tzedakah? That's all nice because it's not my money, it's Hashem's money. But why do I have to give tzedakah? Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we'll learn that in fact, the mitzvah of tzedakah is actually the vehicle to open up the pipeline for your ashirut. You want to be successful in life, prosperous, you want to have panasa and money, you give tzedakah, you open up the pipeline from Borei Olam to give you that money. Now, Borei Olam has all the money in the world. Borei Olam is not stingy like us. Borei Olam wants to give us. But we have to give excuses, so to speak, to Borei Olam to open that pipeline up to shower us with the money. And one of those excuses is that whenever we use our money to help another person in need, Borei Olam says, unbelievable. This person acknowledges that the money he has is not his money. I will shower him with more money so he can help more people and more institutions and more organizations. So aside from the fact that it's not my money, and it's nice mitzvah, and helping out people in need, and increasing Ahabat Israel, you want a segula. Okay, let's call that, because when people hear segula, right away, segula, I'm focused in. Segula, just tell me what I have to do. Want a segula to be rich? Give tzedakah. The best segula from Borei Olam. This is not a man-made. I hear this all the day, all the time. I was somewhere yesterday and they were telling me about, I'm sorry, I just got to say this, about Nishmat Kol Hai 40 times and Shir HaShirim. It's nice, but these are all man-made segulot. I probably say this in every single class. These are man-made segulot. You want a segula from the Torah. You want a promise, a guarantee from the Torah for your wealth. Says Borei Olam, if you give, I give. In fact, the Midrash says, Im atam mesameach et sheli, ani mesameach et shelcha. You put a smile on the faces of my children by giving them, I will put a smile on your face and your children by giving you. I mean, what more do you want to ask for? What more do you want? And not only that, now you're telling me, okay, if I have the money, I'll give. What if I don't have the money? There's another segula. If you don't have the money and you give anyway, that opens up the pipeline from Borei Olam. Baduk Nuseh. We'll see stories right now. Baduk Nuseh, which means tried and tested. If you don't have the money, but you rely on Borei Olam, when an ani comes to your door and you give him, or they call you from that organization and you give them and you don't have the money, or you have it but you need it for something else, but you give them anyway, that opens up the pipeline from Borei Olam to give you more and more. Listen to the story. Ta'anit, Masechet Ta'anit, Daf Tet, in the Gemara. Rabbi Yohanan sees the son of Resh Lakish coming out of yeshiva. Now just to tell you who Rabbi Yohanan was, Resh Lakish, the Amoraim, not Tanaim, not the authors of the Mishnah, but in the time of the Gemara. So Rabbi Yohanan, his Hevruta, which means one-on-one, was Resh Lakish. So he sees Resh Lakish's son coming out of the yeshiva. And he tells him, what pasuk did you learn today? Tell me, what did you learn today? Why is your father paying all this money for tuition? Let's see what you're learning. Imagine he asked them that question today. Haram. So he says, what pasuk did you learn today? He says, Aser te'aser. I learned the pasuk, Aser te'aser. You have to give 10% of the money. Now the child asked Rabbi Yohanan, he says, Lama ne'emar pa'amayim halashon te'aser. It should have said aser or te'aser. What's aser te'aser? You understand the question? I mean, that word is an extra word. You shall tithe the entire crop of your planting. So it could have just said aser et kol tebu'at zaraicha. Why did it say aser te'aser? So Rabbi Yohanan answers him like this: Aser bishbil shetit asher, lech tenase et Hashem. He says, you know why it says it twice? You give 10%. That is the secret to the success. Go and test God. Means you want to test Hashem? Go and test Him. You give 10%, Borei Olam will shower you with money. Now the child asks Rabbi Yohanan, V'chi mutar lenasot et Hashem? Am I allowed to test Borei Olam? This week's Perashat says, Lo tenasu et Hashem elokechem. You can't test Borei Olam. I did it once. I'm not going to tell you now in a public setting in a video what I did one time because I wanted something from Borei Olam and I tested him. I said, if the next person coming out that door is this person, I know that Borei Olam, you're going to give me what I want. It was that person and Borei Olam didn't give me what I wanted because you can't test Hashem. I'll tell you, if you're really interested in knowing, I'll tell you after the class. You can't test God. So says the child to Rabbi Yohanan, what does that mean? I can't test God. I can't give 10% in order for Hashem to give me back. Says Rabbi Yohanan, you're right. You can't test God. You can't say, I'm going to say and let's see if my child will get married tomorrow. Let's see if my daughter will find her zivug. That you can't do. What you're allowed to do is I'll give 10% and let's see if Hashem is going to repay me back. You hear this? He says, where do you get that from? He says, the pasuk from Malachi. Pasuk says like this. Haviu et kol ma'aser el bet ha'otzar. Hashem says, bring all your ma'aser to me. Ubehanunina bezot. Test me. I want you to test me. I'll show you that I could come through. אם לא אפתח לכם את ארובות השמיים והריקותי לכם ברכה עד בלי די. I will open up the gates of heaven for you and shower you until your lips say stop. I can't. You ever hear anybody say stop? Stop giving me money? When you throw money at somebody, Danny, right? Is that person going to say stop? I can't. I don't want any money anymore? But says Borei Olam, of course. Says Borei Olam, test me and I'll give you so much money until you'll say, Hashem, what am I going to do with the money? It's so much money. This is the way we can test Borei Olam. Unbelievable. That's if you give money. By the way, it's not only ma'aser. I have to tell you right now, it's not only ma'aser. Tzedakah is a way that if you give tzedakah, say Borei Olam, I'm testing you right now. I'm giving tzedakah. Let's see if you're going to come through. Says Borei Olam, you doubted me? I'll come through. I'll shower you. That's on the positive side of giving tzedakah. On the negative side, Gemara Masech Ketubot Samech Vav Amud Bet. Famous story with the daughter of Nagdimon ben Gurion. Rabbi Yohanan sees as he's walking through the streets of Yerushalayim, this is the destruction of the second temple. And he sees people are rummaging through the garbage just to get something to eat. He sees the daughter of Nagdimon ben Gurion. Now, who's Nagdimon ben Gurion? He was one of the 3 richest people in Eretz Israel. He had enough money to saturate the whole Eretz Israel for many years, but he ended up losing all his money. So Rabbi Yohanan sees his daughter going through the garbage, through the waste of the horses to see if there's anything she could eat. And he says, excuse me, who are you? She says, I'm the daughter of Nagdimon ben Gurion. He says, what? Your father's a very rich person. Didn't he leave you any money? So she told him, Rabbi, you never heard of the saying, Melach Mamon Haser? What does Melach Mamon Haser mean? You know, today, Baruch Hashem, we have a way to preserve meat by means of a refrigerator, of a freezer. Back then, the only way they could preserve meat is if they salted the meat extensively. And what happens to the meat when you salt it? It shrinks. But that's the only way you can preserve the meat. If you don't put salt on the meat's gone. So she told him the same thing with money. Melach, mamon, haser. If you don't put melach on the mamon, which means if you don't make the mamon shrink by giving tzedakah, haser, you lose the money. And my father, Nagdimon ben Gurion, one of the 3 richest people in Eretz Israel, didn't give tzedakah. And therefore he lost all his money. So you see on the flip side, on the positive and on the negative, what happens when a person gives tzedakah? What happens when a person doesn't give tzedakah? When I give tzedakah, if I could say it like this, I'm twisting Borei Olam's hand to give me more money. By giving tzedakah, I am twisting Borei Olam's hand to give me more money. I'll tell you a quick story. You know, the Hasidut of Chabad had many admorim, many rabbis. So there was a rabbi, an admor by the name of the Tzemach Tzedek. We're talking about 200 years ago. When it came time to publish his Sefarim, the Rebbe, right before the Rebbe of Lubavitch that you all go to in the Ohel, his father-in-law, passed away, I believe, in 1950, asked one of his Hasidim for money to publish the Sefarim of the Tzemach Tzedek. And the Hasid tells the Rebbe, he tells him, look, I really don't have money to publish it. But you know what? If you're asking me to publish it, I'll borrow money, whatever I could do to help, I'll help. And he ended up publishing the Sefarim of the Tzemach Tzedek, and he turned out to be one of the richest people in Chabad. When you don't have money, but you give it to Ma'aser, you give it to Tzedakah, you give it to organizations, you give it to institutions, to people that need the money, says Borei Olam, you didn't have, but you gave it anyway, you forced me. What am I going to do? You forced me to end up giving you the money. Because that's how it works by Borei Olam. That's how it works. Borei Olam gives you, when you don't have the money to give, but you give it anyway, Borei Olam ends up giving it to you. 200 years ago, there was an Admor, a Hasidic Admor, all the Admorim are Hasidic, a Hasidi Admor in Poland, by the name of the Ohev Yisrael Ma'apata. That was his name, Rabbi Yoshua Heschel Ma'apata. Hasid of his came to him and he says, Rabbi, I need 300 ruble to marry off my daughter. Please, Rabbi, help me out. He says, okay, no problem. He takes a piece of paper and he writes on the piece of paper with the pen. He says, please give my Hasid 300 ruble. He tells him, take this to this town, give it to that person over there, he'll give you the money. Okay, sure enough, he takes the paper, he goes to that faraway town, he gives it to the other Hasid of the Rebbe. The person opens up the paper and he says, 300 ruble? Where am I getting 300 ruble from? You know what, here's 100 ruble. I'm sure 100 rubles is fine. The Rebbe didn't mean 300. The Rebbe meant just to help you out. Here, you know what? Here's 100 ruble. So the person takes the 100 ruble, goes back to the Rebbe. He says, Rebbe, I need 300 rubles. 100 rubles will only help for the flowers. What am I going to get with 100 rubles? So the Rebbe takes up a piece of paper and a pen. He writes, please help him out with 300 ruble. He folds it. He gives it to Hasid. He says, go to a different Hasid in a different town. Go over there. He'll help you out. Sure enough, he takes the paper. He goes to a different town, to a different Hasid. That different Hasid opens up the paper. He says, 300 ruble. I mean, I don't have 300 rubles. But you know what? If the Rebbe is commanding me and instructing me and telling me to help out with 300 ruble, I'll help out with 300 ruble. He helped out with 300 rubles. This person didn't have money that ended up helping out with 300 ruble. Baruch Hashem, he became very rich. And the first Hasid lost all his money. The first Hasid that didn't help out and lost all his money took this Rebbe to Din Torah, to Beit Din. Why did he take her into Beit Din? He says, Rebbe, it's because of you I lost my money. It's because if you didn't send this Hasid my way, I wouldn't have to be in this predicament to give him the money or not. And you knew that if I didn't give him the money, I would lose my money. So I'm taking you to the Beit Din. Let's see what the Beit Din says. He says, one second. Before we go to the Beit Din, let me explain to you exactly what happened. He says, okay, please. He says, 40 days before the fetus, the embryo, whatever happens in the stomach, in the womb, 40 days before that, Borei Olam puts a decree in Shamayim, how much money you will have, who you will marry, where you will live, so on and so forth. So Borei Olam came over to my neshama, the Rebbe is saying this. Borei Olam came over to my neshama and said, we want you to have a lot of money. Do you agree? By the way, you're looking at me like, what do you mean? Borei Olam comes over to my neshama before? Yes, it's a Kabbalistic concept. Now is not the time. But you choose your destiny in life. So you can never complain, why is this happening to me? Why is this my fate? You chose it before you came down from the Shamayim to the Aretz. We'll talk about it another time. So the Rebbe says, Borei Olam came over to me in Shamayim and told my neshama, I want you to have a lot of money. And I told Borei Olam, I don't agree. If I have a lot of money, more problems, I won't be able to sit down and learn. You know what? I don't want the money. Scatter my money around to all my Hasidim. And Borei Olam said, no problem. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave my money to all the Hasidim and he gave it to you also. And when that Ani came over to you, when that poor person came over to you and you didn't help him, that means you're stealing my money. You understand? It was my money you're stealing. It's not your money. And Borei Olam saw that my money is not good in your hands, so he took my money from your hands and he gave it to somebody else. You know what that means? That's the end of the story. You know what that means? That means at the moment Borei Olam sees that you have the money to help other people out and you don't, says Borei Olam, the money is not good in your hands. We will strip you from the money and help and take it, give it to other people so they can help the Aniyim. It's unbelievable. It's very scary. It's very scary. And it's funny. Because it's always, when Borei Olam is about to shower us with a great present and a great beracha, he always tests us by sending an ani our way. You'll see. You'll get phone calls to your house from different institutions and organizations. Yes, can I help you? Where, Mr. So-and-so, please help us. But I just gave you last week. What are you calling me again? Don't say that. The reason why they called you is because Borei Olam is about to give you a gift of a lifetime and he's testing to see how good are you with the money. Same thing, by the way, when it comes to anger. Anytime Borei Olam wants to give you a great matana, especially money, he will try you and test you with a a form of anger. It could be from your spouse. It could be from your children, from your colleagues, from your employees, from your employer. It could be from all different places. But Borei Olam tests you. So when that organization calls you up and you say, no, I am not giving. So we go back to the first question that we asked. Am I obligated to give tzedakah, or is it voluntary or not? Forget voluntary, forget obligated. If you know right now that the moment that you give tzedakah, you're opening up the pipeline, and if Haz v'Shalom you don't give tzedakah, the money goes from you, goes to somebody else, why would you not give tzedakah? Why would you not give ma'asir? That's how Borei Olam runs his world. He sees, are you fit for the money? Good, I'll increase more. If not, Haz v'Shalom, I'll take it away from you, give it to somebody else. We see this in the word tzedakah. Now, you know the word tzedakah, the root of the word tzedakah is tzedek. Anybody know what the word tzedek means in Hebrew? Justice. Justice. Borei Olam wants to see justice in the world. You have money, Baruch Hashem. You are a man of means. Are you using that money as a form of justice to help other people? Yes? Good. I'll give you more. If not, you just ruined it. It's all in the word tzedakah. The Al-Sheikh HaKadosh says in this week's parasha like this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu ohev aniyim. Borei Olam cares and has compassion for people that don't have money. Ve'lama hitzricham la'aniyut. If Borei Olam loves poor people, and Borei Olam loves everybody, by the way, but he has an extra kabiyachol place in his heart for poor people. So why does he make them so poor? He says like this. Ratza lezakot et ha'ashirim b'tzdakah. He wanted to give you the merit to help your fellow Yehudi out. Ve'helek ha'ani natan la'ashir yoter al halko. Which means, Rosh Hashanah is coming up. Borei Olam writes for me, Be'adat Hashem, to have $20 million as profit. Okay? $20 million as profit. And on top of that $20 million, he gives me an additional $1 million, but that $1 million doesn't belong to me. That's the $1 million that I'm supposed to use to help other people out. So which means the portion of the poor people is in your lot of the money. He says, you know how I know this? Look at the pasuk. Naton titen lo. What is that? Naton titen. Give. It should have just said one time naton. Naton titen means the naton, the money that Hashem gave you. That's the part of the ani from that titen. From the money that Hashem gave you. Extra in addition to the money that you already have, that you already profited this year. That extra money, naton titen lo. And he says, you know what? And don't be upset that you're giving it to him. You know why? Because it's not your money. It's the money that I gave you as a chaperone, basically. You're an apotropos. You're taking care of the money. It's like, you know how some people have their money in guardianships and they have them in estates? That's exactly what they're doing. It's not their money. They're taking care of the money for you. That's exactly what you're doing. You're taking care of the money for the ani. And at the time that the ani needs the money, you are supposed to give him the money. So ladies and gentlemen, now after we said all this, let's analyze the Pesukim differently. Says the Pasuk like this. Ve'asita hag shavuot laHashem Elohecha misat nidbat yadecha asher titen. Give or make the Hag Shavuot, and when you make Hag Shavuot, you're supposed to invite people over, you're supposed to help people out, people that can afford, give them as a voluntary. You know what that means? When you end up giving them as a voluntary offering, nobody's forcing you, but from the goodness of your heart, you're helping other people out as a nedaba, which we said nedaba is a voluntary. You know what will happen? Borei Olam will shower you with so much money that money will end up being the money that you have to give them as a matana. Let me repeat myself. When you don't have the money, or you have the money, but you give it anyway, as a voluntary offering, you help people out as a form of nedaba, voluntary, you know what will happen? You put the wheels in motion. You flip that switch, and Borei Olam gives you so much money that money ends up being from a nedaba to now a hoba that you have to help other people out. You know why? Because Borei Olam gave you from the money of the Aniyim. So the Pesukim are not contradicting one another. It makes perfect sense. In the beginning, when you give money to help people out, Borei Olam will shower you with so much more money that now that money you're obligated to help the people because it's not your money. It's the lot that Hashem gave you in addition to your money to help the Aniyim out. Which means Borei Olam not only is tzedakah, ladies and gentlemen, not only is tzedakah a source of a blessing, not only is tzedakah is something you have to give, not only is tzedakah is that you're opening up the pipelines, but I'll leave you off with this saying, Yoter mima sheyehudi noten tzedakah, hatzedakah notenet lo. More than what you give to tzedakah, tzedakah gives you back. Borei Olam is finding you ways to redeem you from many tragedies. Borei Olam is finding you ways to shower you with gifts and blessings and money and prosperity and success. One of those ways, one of those forms is a mitzvah of tzedakah. Obligated, not obligated, ma'aseh, not ma'aseh, tzedakah or not. Only a fool will say, no, I'm not giving. Because when you say I'm not giving, Borei Olam constricts that pipeline of money that's in Shamayim, and he says, you're not giving, I'm not giving. So Ba'adat Hashem, coming now, Chodesh Elul, the Rambam says, one of the ways you could be successful in deen is to give tzedakah. When you show that Baruch Hashem, you're a giver, Borei Olam says, I'll give you also. What do you want? You want a good year? I'll give you. What do you want? You want shidduchim? I'll give you. What do you want? Zivug? I'll give you. What else do you want? Whatever you want. Because you showed me that you gave when you couldn't sometimes, and I'll show you that I could also give. May Borei Olam help us to always be on the giving end of tzedakah, be on the giving end of helping other people. Ba'adat Hashem, we'll see you Ba'adat Hashem on Shabbat.